So today we are going to be doing a review of the mechanics of Ikoria. Looks like we're going to have cycling, and we are going to have cycling cards that care about when you cycle things. And it's interesting that they say when you cycle another card, you can't just cycle it to get the effect from your hand. I imagine we'll see more effects like that. Cycling's good though, it definitely helps the game. It always gives you options. I'm always a fan of being able to throw away something you don't need in the moment to let you find something better later. So the next thing are keyword counters. This is an interesting mechanic that is something that they did in the mystery booster set. A flying creature, it's just a 1/1 for a blue that when it died, put a flying counter on a creature. It was interesting, but it wasn't confusing. Whereas some people fear that the keyword counters might be too convoluted, but I think it's simple enough, especially that they are including these little punch-out cards, I'm guessing in the packs, or maybe in pre-release kits, to help keep track of 1/1 counters versus flying, or death touch, or trample, etc. And the other thing is this provides an opportunity for people to 3D print these tokens, and that's pretty exciting. Alright, so the next mechanic is mutate, and mutate is interesting in that it's similar to bestow, but it is way undercosted compared to bestow because it does not increase the creature's power by its own. So it just gains the abilities of the card, and you can only mutate onto a non-human, which makes me think this is going to be a themed set of humans versus non-humans. So we might see a lot of destroy a non-human creature or destroy a human creature, something along those lines. But for instance, this mutate is pretty good. If you can play a cheap non-human creature early, that means you get to mutate this for 4 and basically just upgrade your other card into a 5/4 with reach, and you get to do some rummaging. And there's going to be a lot more of the interesting mutate mechanics from some of the other stuff I've seen so far. The only issue is you're setting yourself up to get 2 for 1. I think mutate will be really interesting for the combinations of creatures you can make. And the way mutate works is that the cards all stack together to be one thing. So if you bounce your one creature that's been mutated 6 times, all 7 of those cards will go back to your hand. And if it dies, they all will go to the graveyard. But it's still only one creature, so it's only going to count as one thing dying. Some of the multicolored mutate cards that they cost 3 colors to cast, their mutate cost has a hybrid mana in it, which means that you could play it just for its mutate ability in a 2-color deck. And the other thing is you can target tokens. Being able to make, a couple of little bird tokens or something else like that, and then mutating them into a huge dinosaur will be crazy strong. But we'll see what kind of tokens we get in this set. And this is an example of how mutate works, where you can either have a 5/4 with the abilities reach, vigilance, and when you mutate it you discard and draw, or you can have a 2/4 with vigilance, reach, and all the same abilities. The only difference is it keeps the name of the creature on top. So this is Mosscoat Goriak, and it is a beast, whereas this would be Cloud Piercer and a dinosaur. Now, the creature type shouldn't matter as much, but if it's a legendary mutated creature, that's when it matters. Now, in a limited format, you're unlikely to have multiples of the same legendary, but if you do, you can always mutate it as a bottom mutate on top of something else if you want to have both of them out on the same battlefield. There are these creatures that do something when they are mutated. So this is a 1-drop 1/1, which normally you wouldn't care about playing because it doesn't do anything, but because it can give a creature -2/-2 when you mutate it, you can get a little bit of extra value off of mutating into something. And the other thing about mutate is, unlike bestow, if you remove the target, it's just going to get countered. It does not enter the battlefield as a creature. Cards like Bristling Boar that says it can't be blocked by more than one creature, that just means that it's self-referencing. So if you do mutate this and you put the mutate on top of the Bristling Boar, top creature still has the ability that it cannot be blocked by more than one creature. It's just self-referencing. It doesn't mean it has to keep the name Bristling Boar. Now we get to Companion. And this is something that I do not really like, but it'll be interesting. It looks like there's going to be 10 companions, and they all will give you deck construction rules. And so if you follow those rules, you can play them in your sideboard, and at the start of the game you reveal one companion, because you can only have one as your companion. Any point during that game, you can cast it. You still have to pay its mana cost, you still have to follow the timing restrictions, and once you've cast it, it's just in play like any other card. So it's not like Commander, where the creature's going to go back, or you can choose to put it back into your sideboard if it dies. Once you cast it, it's just in the game. The other interesting thing is that the deck building rules only apply to your main deck. So, for instance, this one makes you only have cards with converted mana cost 3 or greater and lands. So you cannot have things that cost 1 or 2. But your sideboard could be full of cards that cost 1 or 2, and you can sideboard those cards in and still keep Karuga as your companion for games 2 and 3. The other thing is you can just play these in your deck like normal. You can just ignore the companion part and still just play it for its ability, which is still very powerful. The thing I'm not clear on, although I'm sure it is allowed but difficult, is you can change companions between games 1 and 2. Now it does shrink your sideboard effectively by a card, but it just means you have access to this card starting game 1. That is all the mechanics for Ikoria. And when the set fully releases, I will do a set review and a breakdown for drafting and what you can expect for your pre-release that you're going to be playing on MTG Arena.